Hey guys, wanted to make a little video for a newbie that's going into trucking. The thing is, what trailer should you pull? What should you be getting into? If you're very new, I advise you to go work for someone. But if you're thinking about buying your own equipment, it's not as easy as hopping or pulling different trailers. So here you go. So now I'll talk about reefers, dry vans, step decks, flats, and car haulers. As much as I know about them. I know there's livestock, I know there's low boys, I know there's what are those, belly hoppers. I don't know anything about those I just mentioned. What I do know is reefers very well, and I know flats and decent, and steps decent. Dry vans a little bit. So there you go. Now let's start out with the reefers. I'm out of Washington, guys. I made a similar video about hot shotting and what trailer you should pull. Everything depends. Comes down to your location. If you're based out of Washington, you're based out of a location that requires reefers, like, for example, Washington. Washington's decent with reefers. If you take, I don't know. Sorry, guys. Wyoming. I'm guessing Montana or Wyoming, where there's a bunch of fields, there's not much for reefers to do. Not a good idea. So what I'm trying to underline here, figure out where you want to live, where you want to start out, and more or less build a customer base. That's what it comes down to. That's how you're going to survive down the road. If you're coming into the industry, it's hard, great. Sooner or later you'll get right out of it and you'll get going until the next crisis. But if you have a customer base, you have something to rely on, something more realistic rather than something a wave that you just rode and someone decided to pay you $2, $3, $4 a mile. It doesn't matter what they decided to pay, it's just a wave, up or down. It's sort of rough, it's a little scary. So work your customer base. So back to what I was saying in this whole video, what should you pull? If you're out of Washington, really look into the reefers. Washington has a lot of fruit, so that's what we haul. A lot of apples, a little bit of cherries, potatoes, that kind of thing. Majority of the times it's apples out of Washington, right? So with that in mind, that's why reefer is a good idea for Washington. Also, flatbed, step deck is a good idea as well. Determining factors are a little bit as far as step deck and flatbed. I might have to do separate videos as far as breaking them down, but I'll keep it very simple. So why not just go with the flatbed? Flatbed is a lot simpler, but the issue here is height. Step deck offers you more height. Now, if you were to, hold on a second. Let's say you wanted to haul a high cube container. Well, you can't do it on a flatbed, bud. You got to do it on a step deck. So that kind of thing, And then you got super low step decks, or whatever you want to call them, the low boy step decks. Yeah, those are even better. You can haul some tall stuff. But the two differentiating things are height, and second one, if you're more, I would say for the younger crew, younger individual, I'm not separating anyone here, but for the guy that, let's just say, that has the young spirit, the energy, that's all I'm talking about. So the people with more energy, I'd say steer towards the step deck. It'll give you more options. Of course, you got to have the decent dispatch service to keep you busy, because those guys just want to throw a full load and call it good. You're really not going to benefit a whole lot from a step deck. Step deck benefits a lot from partialing out your loads, and just throwing on a bunch of partials, or throwing on a full load and a couple partials, that kind of thing. Filling in that step deck, which is nice. That's where you get the extra money. So two big things to differentiate step deck from step decks to flatbeds are the height, and if you got the dispatch service and the energy, you could haul more freight, equals to more money. Clearly, sort of missed to say that. Now, as far as reefers, pretty obvious. I mentioned them, I'm gonna repeat myself. Washington, Washington has a lot of fruit. You haul reefers. Reefer pays decent for what it is compared to dry van out of Washington. Okay, dry van, I feel like you can make more money out there on the East Coast. I don't feel very comfortable with running dry vans for the way I'm set up. I'm not out there doing the work. I'm not out there running these dry vans. So to stack partials or do something like that, I don't feel very comfortable with that. y'all probably know me for the hotshot, you know, like when someone asks me for a dedicated truck, I don't put anything else on there. But if someone says, hey, I need a full truck, and you give them a full truck, they use up half, and they don't care what you do, they're like, oh, shoot, dude, throw something else on there. You know, it's all that it comes down to. It's being efficient and sharp and quick with your time and money, because you invested in that flatbed, you invested in that truck, so why should you run it at $2 when you could push 3, or why should you run 3 when you could push it for 4? You know what I mean? It just makes no logical sense. Don't step on anyone's toes. Be respectful. If your customer asks you for a dedicated, run a dedicated. You know what I mean? But if they just want a full flat and you show up, they take up only half, and they didn't specifically stress out, hey, this should be dedicated, or vice versa, you know, be respectful. Make sure nothing gets damaged. I highly work on not moving anyone's product. The way it gets loaded on the trailer, that's the way it gets hauled. So a lot of times we'll tell guys specifically, like, hey, this partial goes up front, or this partial goes in the back. Therefore it's easier for us to work. You know, when I'm picking up a partial, we tell them straight up, hey, we got another partial that's going here. You got this much room to work with. Will it work? Yep, that's all I need. And sometimes they need more, and sometimes they need less. But when you're up front with people, people respect you. People got no problem with it, and everyone's on the same page, and it just makes it so much simpler. I know I've spent a lot of time on this, but a lot of people get cut up on it. Like, hey, he asked for a full flat. Yeah, he used half of it. He never, you know what I mean? He's not stressing out. Make sure not to put anything on his flat. So yeah, what I'm trying to simplify it for you here is, someone asks for a full flat, you give them full flat, they take up half, and they don't stress that this needs to be dedicated or whatever. Be respectful, you know, give a couple feet and then load something else up on it. If you sign something that, hey, this is dedicated, or verbally they've asked you to run this dedicated, be respectful, run it dedicated. You know what I mean? No one put a gun to your head to accept that load at $2 a mile dedicated. You know, if you need to make your $4 or $3, whatever you need to make at the time, make sure you get at it and then go from there. If not, you always got options, guys. Don't push yourself up against the wall. Don't corner yourselves. Now, the next thing, I've talked about steps, flats, reefers, dry vans. The reason I don't really like dry vans, particularly I'm out of Washington, it's hard to get out of Washington. It's like you get stuck with this $160, $180, and it's doable, but it's not what I want to be doing. Reefers do make better money, but you're risking with reefers because you got the unit, and it sounds like an excuse. It's not, man. You got fuel expense, additional fuel expense, and then you got that unit, you know, stupid little sensor goes out, or an alternator, and it's like, it's a lot more money on that reefer than it is on the truck, which is sad. But anyways, now the one I left for last is car hauling. Car hauling is one pain in the neck, man. I'm talking about, you know, the full-on car haulers, not those just trailer car haulers. I'm talking about the car haulers that got a small bed, sleeper, whatever you want to call it. They got a car right on top of them. Full-on car haulers. They have to haul a lot of cars. That's what they're called, car hauler. But the reason I said car hauler so much, because, man, it's a lot of freaking work. But from all the stuff, if you want to make the best money as a driver, really look into a solid car hauling company. They'll pay you better because they have more money to pay you from. You know what I mean? Those car haulers go a lot better than $4 a mile. They could do a lot better. They could afford a lot better, and they have more options. Where a guy that just picked up a coil or 2 coils of steel, I mean, he gets paid $3 a mile, and he's stuck with it, so he can't pay his driver that much. So it's a hand-in-hand trade-off. It's not like you're getting ripped off or something. You know, car hauler guys work their butts off, so therefore I expect them. I expect the companies pay them better, but anyways, I know some boys that are just drivers and they make some serious money, but of course they're working their butt off. They're pulling, dragging cars, driving cars. Not every car is an operational. I mean, obviously no one put a gun to their head to grab that non-operational vehicle, but there's times where you sign up for an operational vehicle and you show up and it's non-op, and then like you're middle of nowhere, you spend so much time, you're just like, heck with it, I'll just drag it on my trailer, and then it turns into this whole nightmare. All I'm trying to say is be prepared to be a grease monkey, more or less. If you're going to work hard as a car hauler, oh boy. that's all I'm saying. You know, to shake it all down, I'll put it in perspective for you. If you're full of energy and you really want to bust tail, look into step decks. If you want to make some serious money, look into car hauling. If you're a mid-aged guy, just want to make a decent living, look into step, flat, reefer. You know, if you're an older fella that you're done busting your tail, you just want to go out there, make a decent living, come back home, look into a reefer. And if you don't want to be that low-key and that bored, look into a flat. A lot of things come into play. That's why I said at the beginning of this video, I might have to make a separate video. But, you know, when you do step decks, there's a thing called load levelers, and those require a little bit more attention. So, simplify the process for an older fella that just wants to take it easy. Really look into a reefer to get in with a good reefer company. If you don't want to be that bored, as I mentioned, I'm repeating myself, look into a flat. I would not advise you to go into step. I would not advise you to go into car hauling. So I hope I broke it down vaguely, but yet, you know what I mean, where you could categorize things. And yeah. Well, alrighty, boys. As always, may the Lord bless you. May you all have a mighty fine day. God bless you. Bye.